Hi guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Winning Edge podcast. As always, I'm Rick and this is Jon, and we hope you're good. Jon, how are you, mate?
I'm good. Tired this morning, but again, time difference issues, but we're good.
Yeah. Jon's getting no sympathy from me because he's still in Miami, aren't you, mate? So, yeah. And it's raining here in Manchester, so no sympathy whatsoever. So today, Jon, talking a little bit about, you've just mentioned there you're a bit tired, whatnot. We're going to discuss morning routines and being productive and how health and exercise and all of that fits in to that morning routine, whether it's a good thing or not, what we do, if we do anything, and maybe some tips and guidance for the listeners. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think the first place to start with is do you have a morning routine, mate?
Not really. I mean, yes, everyone has a routine. It depends whether you call it a routine. And I think, I thought we were going to touch on this in a little bit, so we're going to go straight in. I do think a lot of the morning routines, I'd be interested to get your take because I know you think a little differently on some of these things, that you see a lot of people on, social media promote, do these top 5 things in the morning, get up, fucking meditate, do your grateful journal, ice shower, bath, whatever, before you do anything. I do think a lot of that, I don't want to say it's bullshit, but I don't think a lot of the people that promote that actually fucking do it, if I'm perfectly honest, because if you actually listen to super successful people and then they tell you their morning routine, it really isn't that complicated. They don't get up and do all that stuff. They get up and start working, basically. So I'm not a big believer in listing out all these things, but what I am a big believer in is whatever, like anything, whatever works for you. So if getting up and doing X, Y, and Z works for you and it makes you more productive and it makes you feel better and it gets your juices flowing, depending on what kind of work and job you do. If you're going to get up and be creative, then, that's not easy when your fucking alarm goes off and you don't want to get up, right? So what I usually tell people, my only morning routine and my only morning, it's not even a routine, it's more of a must do, is get up the minute my alarm goes off. No fucking snoozing. So that's my only thing. Like, because I'm an early morning person. I like getting up early. Or I say that I'm more productive early. But when that alarm goes off, I'm not much different than anybody else. I could quite easily be like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to get up and press a snooze button if I was that way. But I'm going to lose time. How many times do I start hitting that? You hit it once and, in my experience, you'll hit it again. And you'll push it right to the limit of getting up and then your day starts rushed. So my only stipulation with people is especially if you're going to start trying to get up earlier, or you're going to put training in as an early morning routine, even if it's not for you, especially because when I talk to clients, sometimes they're like, oh, not really an early morning person, but this is the only time I can train. I'm like, well, okay, here's your first starting point. When that alarm goes off, you get up. No matter how you feel, just get up. Because by the time you've staggered to the bathroom or whatever the fucking thing is you do first, you're up. It's a few seconds. You're not going to crawl back into bed. But if you hit snooze, you're gonna lose half an hour. And then again, it's not a routine for me, but I work quite well first thing in the morning when it comes to admin, anything on the computer. So for me, just having a coffee machine on a timer is a fucking game changer. I'm literally, alarm goes off. I go to the bathroom, I stagger downstairs, I pour a cup of coffee, open my laptop, look at my list of things to do. And by the time I'm 2 or 3, mouthfuls into my coffee, I'm kind of good to get started on the things I need to get going with. So not that that's a morning routine, and it really depends on what you think about coffee consumption and how much, but that helps me get going pretty quickly. Yeah. Would spending 20 minutes in the fucking shower help more on that? I don't know, but I'm not doing it. I'm sure freezing my arse off and jumping in an ice bath or whatever would work as well. But no, I mean, exercise, maybe, there's some mornings I get up and exercise pretty much first thing. But again, that changes my morning a bit. So we'll come back to that when it comes to timing of exercise, because it changes my day and I have to plan my day differently. If I'm going to get up and train at 6:30 and not do all my other work, then things have to change. But that's where I'm at really on morning routines. I'm not against them. I just think a lot gets made of them, and it's just to sell shit. Do this, and this. I don't believe that most people are doing all that. unless they really have a life where they don't have to do much for the first hour of the day. And if you've created that, perfect, great. But I need to get up and get doing shit.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you totally. I think most of these people are bullshitters and charlatans, and they'll say one thing, and I think with so that's all well and good to it. Like you've I think for me you've nailed it. It's about what works for you. You try getting up and doing those 2 or 3 tasks, 4 or 5 tasks, whatever. When you've got 2
Usually
kids to
5.
get,
I don't know why, but it's
yeah,
always
yeah,
5. Like,
yeah,
do these 5 things, but to live $1 million fucking day or whatever. And it's like, well,
yeah.
I'm not sure
Why
that's
not?
going to
Why
make
not
any difference.
4 or 6 or
Yeah.
whatever? But yeah, you try doing that in the morning when you've got 2 kids to get to school.
I know. I knew that's where you'd come from a little bit. It's totally different, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then because you're human and you're a human being, you wake up and you realise that you've not ironed, little Johnny's school jumper or whatever, and it's like,
Yeah,
soz Johnny, you're not going to school in your jumper
because I've
because
got to meditate for 10
dad,
minutes.
mum and dad's got manifesting to do and meditating to do, and
Yeah,
little Johnny wants his breakfast and he's kicking
yeah.
off, and and all that, it's just bollocks. It's just absolute, like you said, it's clickbait bollocks that hooks people in to get them in their email into your ecosystem to try and sell them something, to sell them this unrealistic life, and I think for me, like you said, we want to get stuck into the exercise. I definitely threw it on you there, just for the listeners. We'd agreed how we were gonna start today's podcast off, and then I just completely fucking ignored it and just went straight in. I mean, John, you've known me for how many years? 20 years. We've said that every time now, and we'll probably say it on every single podcast. But we used to work early together, didn't we? We were in work together. I think you'd get in for 6:30, I'd be in for 7, and I hated every second of being in at 7 a.m. And with me, nothing is getting done without a cup of tea.
Yep.
Nothing's getting done. And that it has become, for all my close friends and family, that's become an ongoing, joke that we'll all laugh about. But that's what works for me. That is absolutely what works for me. All this, and that's what I meant to touch on as well. This 4 a.m. hustle and grind and all that. If I get up at 4 a.m., I'm shattered and I'm not doing anything. So,
no, and also I think that there is a thing, and I see it with a lot of clients. I see it with a lot of people that we do all have slightly different. The whole "are you a morning person or not" it is a thing. And I think we get stuck on, we have clients come in, and I don't know what it is. We have quite a lot of Asian clients, and they like to stay up late. I remember when I first got to Hong Kong and had clients over there and things, and they would be like, "Yeah, no, I'm up till 1, 2 a.m."
Yeah, that's a culture, isn't it? That's a culture thing.
It's a cultural thing. Like, it's not late. It's not, and all of a sudden try like, "Oh well, can you start going to bed at 10 because you need to get 8 hours sleep?" And it's like, well, what time are they starting work? So a lot of these people drip into work at around 10 a.m. and that might be their more productive way of working. So, all of a sudden going, in order to become mentally stronger or whatever, you've got to start getting up at 4:30. I see people all over social media, with the picture of their alarm clock at 4:30, copying Goggins or whatever.
Yeah, like a badge of honor,
Yeah, I'm like, fuck. Like, I used to get up at 4:30 3 times a week for a 5:30 a.m. client. Did that for about 18 months recently in LA, and it's fucking hard. That 4:30 thing is like, and again, the only reason I can do it is I can get up, and because I've for my whole life had this alarm goes off, get up. No matter what time it is, just get up. Then I can do it. But did it become detrimental over time? Was there a point in time where it got to like, look, I've got to start letting these go, because that 3 times a week is fucking up my energy, fucks up my sleep a little bit, because I've been up since 4:30. So that next night I'm falling asleep. I want to go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. Next morning I might not be up till 5:30 or 6, and it's just this mess up of a routine. And then I'm not getting much done early at that 6 till 9 a.m. time that I like to work. Now I'm in work. I've done a session. I go and grab a coffee. I come back. I sit down in the office. The trainers are in, and I'm getting asked questions. I open my laptop. I just don't get the shit done I'm supposed to do. And then I'm like, oh, I'll do it later when I get home. Well, that ain't happening if it's in the afternoon. So I think, looking at people's natural times of how they do things and how they've always do things, and then trying to build something around that is always going to be a little bit more successful than, like you say, forcing this almost, fucking hero day. Get up at this time, do all this, do all that, win the day. Like, fuck me, getting up at 4:30 a.m. is not winning the day for me. Like, that's not. I'll do it, but I don't see it as a win. It's just, if I have to do it, I'll do it. But it's not how I would personally lay out my day. If it could be, it's never perfect. Things come up, shit happens. But
yeah, I mean, I saw, obviously no names. We don't want to get sued, but some dudes say,
I'll worry about that. I'll just fucking throw names out. I don't really care.
I was going to say like sued again or whatever, you know what I mean? But like some dude was like, I get up at 4 and I have 750 milliliters of water, and I was like, fuck off, no, you don't, and again, like 750 mils. Well, what happens if you have 760?
Well, here's the thing, right? And you might be knowing, you're not quite as old as me yet, but you'll be getting there, right? So a lot of these people that fucking spout this shit, right, are usually younger, by and large.
Mm-hmm.
You try fucking getting up at my age, having 50. how many milliliters of water did you say?
750. I think it was something like that. Anyway, I can't remember.
And then normally you're going to go for your coffee after that. I don't care who these gurus are. They all drink fucking coffee.
Yeah.
You are going to the toilet every 20 minutes for the next hour or two.
Yeah.
That's not really winning you money. Yes, I believe you should drink water when you first get up, but the amount I drink now is a bit less, depending on my first couple of hours, especially if I'm going to go and train. Because I know that then, in 20 minutes time, I'm like, okay, all this water's got to come out, and it's going to come out quite quickly. Not like when I was younger, like a fucking camel, throw a load of water in, it don't come out for 2 hours. As you get older, that don't fucking happen. So for you younger viewers, probably didn't need to go there, but it's a thing. And when so just saying this, one-off rule for everybody, it's not as black and white and as simple as that.
It's exactly that. And the morning routine has become what the influencer was saying. Here's what I eat in a day. Well, I don't give a shit what you eat in a day, because you're not me and I'm not you. And goes back to that thing that you said at the very beginning, that it has to be what works for you, doesn't it? It has to be about monitoring your output at work, your performance in the gym, your performance in the key metrics of your life, and if that means staying in bed for another hour or having a coffee, rather than or 749 mils of water rather than 750 mils of water.
They can be just as productive, right? That's like you say, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, how are they even measuring these metrics that this is better for everybody? Like you say, for someone else, an extra hour's sleep is going to be way more productive than getting up that early. So, one thing I wanted to ask, I'll touch on what I do and how I kind of look at it, but, for you and what you do with clients, and maybe especially business clients, because I think there's a bit of trial and error here for a lot of people. And I think it's something that I know as PTs and trainers with their clients, we tend to always work with them around a schedule that they think's best for them. I start work at this time, I finish at that time. So I've either got to train here or here. And these things never really get revisited half the time. It just becomes a training time. But how do we know that, and again, depends on flexibility. I'm lucky. I can kind of work my training into, to a certain degree, what's best for my day and how I work. What is it? What works best for you? How do you manage it? I mean, your day is a bit different than mine. You've got Liam to think about. You run around doing lots of different meetings in different places, and you don't live in a gym like I do. But do you find, that there's a most productive time for you to fit it into the day around all your other things? How do you work that with clients, especially business clients who will tell you, I've got meetings, I've got this, I've got, and you're trying to manage their energy and their time, but you also know that training is going to be more productive. Do you have a way of looking at that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll talk from my perspective, if that's okay, about what I do, and then I'll maybe mention what I do with clients as well. For me, I get more productive as the day goes on.
Right. Okay.
So
That's interesting.
and that's
Well,
just
you
what
said that
works for
earlier. You
me.
don't like getting up, so
Yeah, that's just what works for me. So getting up mega early is going to lead me to a path of doing absolutely nothing, lounging about, feeling tired, training badly, not getting my tasks done.
yeah.
So I'll get up at a reasonable time, so I'm not sort of slothing about in bed all day.
Yeah.
But um, what I find is best for me in the way my brain works is similar to you, is that I'll get some key tasks done straight away if I can. But then the way my clients will often work is they're busy, but they'll work in a daytime type manner, and they'll be the
Yeah.
same. They'll do their admin and whatnot in the mornings. They'll do meetings in the day and in the evening. So that's what my day tends to look
Right.
like.
Okay. Yeah.
What I found works for me, and it's took a bit of practice, like anything. It takes practice, takes discipline. I found what works for me is closing my day off by doing some form of exercise, and
Right. Okay.
that then is my bump that my day
Good on.
is finished, and that time's
Yeah.
for me. The challenge for that was simply getting there. That
Yeah.
was the challenge, because there's always something to do for all of us, isn't there? There's always something
Yeah.
that's more that's a task that needs to be completed, and more often than not, there's always something more important than us, and that was the challenge, or more important than me. So I would often I found myself putting myself last,
Mm.
and I'll leave it tonight because I've got to get this done.
I think
Whereas,
it's easier to cancel and just go home as well. Sometimes at 5, 6 o'clock at night, you've had a
absolutely,
long day. Your
absolutely,
brain's maybe a little tired. I think copping out in the evening. Well, I guess it's both. It's the same both ends of the day. The morning has the opposite problem.
yeah,
I create snooze. I don't get up on time. Now I'm rushing. Okay, fuck it. I'm not going to go. I'm just going to go straight to
yeah,
work. So
yeah,
they both have their issues. But evening, that would have always been my problem in the
yeah.
evening. Unless it was
But
work and I was coaching, getting into the gym at 6 o'clock at night was
yeah,
just not happening.
but going back to what you said about you're non-negotiable with the snooze button, which is is absolutely bang on. It's the exact same for me. How I got past this was having this non-negotiable. Okay, this is non-negotiable. I have to
Yeah,
go. And then one of my little tips, which is really simple, we all use this. I'm sure people have heard this before. Is I encourage clients to join a gym that's on the way home from work. You have to pass it.
yeah,
And the non-negotiable is I have to walk through that door. Now,
yeah.
when I walk through that door, I'm not gonna, like you said about getting up and going to the toilet and whatever. You're not gonna get back to bed. When I get through that door, I'm going to do something.
Yeah.
And some days it may be a brilliant training session, and other days it may not be. But I am through that door, and that's how I do things. And if I take it to clients, again, it's what you've said with that snooze thing. I don't actually tell them anything. I get them to make the decisions, and I get them to make that list of non-negotiables, like you've just said, and then they can fit it into their day. And my job then, as their coach, is to hold them accountable and ask them, have they done it or not?
Yeah. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I call it a daily sweat regarding training, and that's all it is. Every day, a daily sweat. Yeah. And you can do that however you want. Yeah. But you get a sweat on every day. And then they've either done it
I think
or they haven't.
the misconception sometimes as well is, we've put these time slots on everything, right? Training's got to be an hour or an hour and a half. Now, if you're going to a specific training thing, like you go kickboxing or whatever, if that session's 90 minutes, then that session's 90 minutes. But if you give yourself 2 or 3 options of what your exercise might look like for the day, a lot going off like, okay, this is my bare minimum. And that could be 20 minutes. Get a fucking bike at home or something. Like I've got a watt bike at home, and 20 minutes on that's a fucking killer.
Mm-hmm.
So if I've not got long, or maybe first thing in the morning, whatever, or later in the day, if I've done nothing, it's like get on that, do 20 minutes. And it's not going to take much out of my day, but I've exercised, I feel better, I've moved stuff around a little bit. Other days I'm in the gym, upwards of 2 hours. Other days it's a set session. If it's boxing with my coach or if it's jiu-jitsu, I know it's that time till that time.
Mm-hmm.
give yourself a little bit of flexibility, but like you said, the non-negotiable is these are the 3 options maybe for the day. If you do miss kickboxing, go and do that. So if you're missing kickboxing, because let's say, it's 6 till 7:30, you're tired and it's been a long fucking day and you've got shit to do maybe, and you're like, okay, if I go kickboxing, by the time I get home, it's going to be 8, and then I've got this fucking presentation to do for tomorrow. I didn't get it done earlier. Don't do that. Go and do 20 minutes on something, which is going to get you creative again, get some energy up, and then go home and get on with what you've got to get done. But don't be like, I'm just going to miss that and go and do this.
Because a lot of the people that we're talking about will often have busy schedules, won't they, and families and all that kind of stuff. And of course, they've got responsibilities in work. So the story that's created to themselves is, I have to get that piece of work done. It's a non-negotiable. But the same as going home and cooking their kids dinner, it's a non-negotiable. But actually, to be the best you can be at getting that work done, to be the best you can be at getting that parenting skills done, making dinner, doing whatever as a parent, to be the best that you can be, you've also got to look after yourself. So therefore, it's a non-negotiable. Get it done.
And I think assessing rules, how productive you are or are not when you do an exercise or not. Like for me, I try and set my day up around when I'm going to train, because I know, like, I can concentrate so far. That's why I like getting up at, I'll get up at 5:36. I start getting some work done. That 6 till 9 is my most productive time if I've got to do anything creative on the computer or whatever, or get shit done, accounts, numbers, whatever it might be. I get that done before I train. But by 9-ish, I'm getting itchy. And 10 o'clock, I tend to like to train at 10 o'clock in the morning, because I've got that 10 till lunchtime window, usually finish before 12, but 11:30, whatever. Knowing that then usually I've got a few more things to deal with, which now might be a little bit more practical. So my energy's up, I've trained, endorphins are going. Now maybe I've got a few meetings in the gym, different trainers, whatever. Maybe I've got a couple more things to deal with business-wise, but it's more face-to-face. We'll usually have something like a team education or training or whatever at 1 o'clock, a couple of times a week. So if I'm involved in that, I'm still pumped and got some decent energy for that. But I know that if I leave the gym around 2-ish, and now I'm done for a few hours. Like, I'm not getting much done between that 2 and 4 o'clock time. That's when my body comes down a little bit. I'm tired from training. I've been up since 6. I've got the bulk of my work done. At that point, I want to relax a little bit, whatever that looks like. For me, it might be a bit of a power nap, fucking lie down for half an hour, whatever, get some food. And then maybe, I have a second wind around 4 till 6, where I've got a few more things to do. Maybe that's calls. Usually it's phone calls more so than anything else. They're a bit easier to do, because again, it's two-way energy. So jump on, get talking, and energy kicks in from there. That's how I prefer my day to look, because I know that the energy of my training, if I train early, it takes away a bit of time, and I'll do that sometimes, but I structure my day differently. So if I train at 6:30 till 7:30, I've got to then include a drive. I'll usually, 30-minute drive to fucking training, hour training, drive to work, but I'm getting into work at 8:30. Well, I've lost a couple of hours of the type of work that I would normally do. And now I'm in the gym, which means I'm not sitting at my computer getting stuff done correctly. So I'll also maybe plan my days. So if Tuesday and Thursday, my early morning training sessions, they're the days I'm probably not getting much done on my computer. It'll be mostly physical type work.
I think you've used the word, haven't you? A couple of words: structure and planning, and that's what we do with athletes, isn't it? When we worked with athletes, we would put a plan in place for them. People think that periodized plan for athletes is just like, this is when you do strength, this is when you do cardio, but it's not. It's planning that week out, isn't it? And plan, because they've got media commitments, or they've got a lot of them do, and quite rightly so, some charitable commitments and so forth. And it's no different for the way that athlete lives is no different for the way the business owner lives, the parent owner lives, you or I live. What I took from that there is you plan it, you've got it in your diary.
And I make adjustments. And I think that's something we don't go back to with clients sometimes. Clients don't really know what the best structure is for them. They just go, this is the best time for me.
Yeah.
Because after that, I'm doing all this. And, after a month, do we sometimes sit down and go, how's that time working out for you?
Yeah. How's that going? How's it doing?
Is it productive? Because you've missed quite a few sessions. So whilst you say that 6 a.m. is the only time you can train, you've missed 4 out of 8 sessions. So
Yeah.
it clearly there's an issue there. What's the issue, and how can we adjust that? Can you train at a different time? Could you nip out the office at 10 o'clock in the morning? Would that be more productive and better? Do you have a bit of flexible hours? Because if you have, although that's not part of your routine the way you normally do things, maybe try that for a few weeks, stay an hour later, but you might find you more productive working it in that way. And I think the other thing is that getting people to shut off, which is not easy. It depends on the job and the task they're dealing with.
Well,
we get cancellations, flights like, I'm stuck in this thing and I just need to get it done.
Yeah.
Rather than, I know I've got training at 10. I'm going to get as much done as possible. I'm going to shut off at 9:30, go over to the gym, get my workout out, and I'll come back to it.
I'll go back to it.
And you might be more productive. But, maybe not. I know what that feeling is like. Sometimes my juices are flowing and I'm off, and it's like, I've got to get this fucking done. Because if I go back to it later, I'm going to come back to it in a different mindset.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I've got 2 halves of something that I've written, and they're very different. Because one half was this version of Jon, and the next half was this, and I'm like, oh,
absolutely, yeah. But that's a decision, though, isn't it? You're not stuck. It's a decision, and for us as coaches, that, like you say, sometimes we let it pass and we go, yeah, no problem. But then if it becomes a regular occurrence, it's like, no, you're making a decision here. And
I think especially if this is working, again, I keep bringing it back to kind of personal training sessions, and at the end of the day, that's not the only way people train. It's more about you going, okay, cool, don't train now then, but do something later then. Get that done. Maybe it is better to get that done, and we'll train in a couple of hours. Now your coach might not still be available at that point, but it doesn't mean say you can't go to the gym and get something done. Whereas half the time it's like, oh, I missed my session. It's like, so.
Yeah, it's an excuse, isn't it?
The gym's
it's an
closed.
Excuse. Yeah.
It was that the only way you could have got some exercise done. Yeah. So, again, and I think this comes down to coaches as well, just making sure that you're giving people options. If you do miss my session, fine. Go and get this done. No, you can't come, no problem. Late cancel.
Yeah. I don't know, Jon, I don't know about yourself, but I don't know, with the Wi-Fi, you just glitched out a little bit there. So I don't know if the listener will get that. So can you just repeat that a little bit?
What the fuck did I say?
I don't know. I don't know. Just the last bit. In fact, I think we've had, we've sort of laboured the point, haven't we? People are creatures of habit. And I think what you were saying is that, people can still, they make, it's that difference between getting stuck and finding an excuse not to go. And, people are creatures of habit, but often them habits are not good habits and they're not productive.
Yeah, and I think like anything, if the habit is to start cancelling, I think I did a post on the other day. I'm like, don't make cancelling a habit. Whether that's cancelling on your trainer, cancelling on yourself, cancelling the fact that you said you're going to go and train and then you don't, that becomes just as big a habit as going. So we've got to create a habit of showing up to the gym or to your exercise of choice. We talk about the gym a lot because that's what we do, but it could be your kickboxing class, it could be swimming, it could be going for a run, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is, but don't cancel it.
Yeah,
you can get into the habit of not canceling it, like other things. How often do people cancel going into work?
Yeah,
very often. I mean, some do, but by and large, it's like that's a non-negotiable. If you cancel going into work too often, you're probably going to lose your job.
Yeah, there's a consequence, isn't there?
Yeah, so like give yourself a consequence of, okay, I have got other things, but I'm not going to cancel. No matter how tired I am, I'm just going to go. And understand that sometimes just showing up is the win. You've got something done, show up. There's your win for the day. It might not be the most productive session in the world, but you got it done. And you keep ticking on that habits of, okay, even on my worst day, I went and it wasn't that bad. Because we also build up, I'm tired, it's going to be a shit session, there's no point, I'm not going to enjoy
that story, that narrative.
You're telling yourself all this stuff, and it's like, by and large, I'm sure you've done it, and you get there, and then you start warming up, or you're dreading the hardest session in the world, because sometimes, especially if you go in kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, all these things, you never know what mood the coach is in that day. Sometimes you rock up, you're tired as fuck, and they decide, we're just sparring all fucking for 2 hours. And you're like, say, can we not just do something?
Yeah.
But you'll remember that one day. when you're tired and go, oh, if it's that today, I probably really don't need to go. But you turn up and all of a sudden it's an easy session. You know, it's a bit more technical. You do a few rounds, you're like, okay, great. I turned up, I didn't do as much. That was perfect for me today. Just go and worry about how it turns out once you're fucking there and deal with it.
So
what do you think? Go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, I totally agree. You create that story. Often the story is a load of bollocks. It's all in your head. You said something there, which I was about to say. It's about putting a tick in the box, isn't it? And it's that simple. Tick the box, yeah.
Absolutely.
You were going to ask me something then, mate. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, flip side, right? So we talk a lot about exercise and using it hopefully to make us more productive, right? So whether you're the businessman, whether you're just trying to lose weight, whatever your goals are, we talk about exercise making you feel better, making you feel healthier, making you more productive. Getting the brain and the creative juices flowing. Sometimes just moving around can help with all of that stuff. What when it goes the other way? What when you have clients that start to, I guess, get obsessed with training a little bit, start going the other way where training becomes the be all and end all, and then everything else starts to suffer. So maybe their business or their job or whatever starts to suffer because now all of a sudden they become that addicted to exercise, or they start getting into exercise for competition purposes, and all of a sudden it goes the other way. How do you help people balance that? I mean, you've worked with a lot of top athletes. Athletes are very different. That's their job. But when you've got busy professionals that start going the other way and becoming less and less productive at work because they want to do more and more exercise, they want to do this big fucking challenge, or they want to do all these things, but all of a sudden everything else falls off. Do you see much of that?
Yeah, absolutely. High performing people. We're all addicts, aren't we, in our own little way? We're all addicts. It's about finding something that we're positively addicted to, like you just said, but then making sure that positive loop doesn't loop round into a negative loop. So I work, like you say, a lot with, as you do, with a lot of like CEOs and senior leaders and all that kind of stuff. And one of their greatest skills is their ability to focus and drive forwards and to be very single-minded, if they've got a task to complete or a project or whatever. And like you're saying, they then get that endorphin back up, that feel good, that serotonin in the brain, all those chemicals, and that becomes super addictive. But then the challenge that you've got, and this is a generalization, it's not everyone, of course, but a lot of these, there was Dr. Kevin Dutton did a study on it, and he actually likened real high performers and their mentality to similar behavior to psychopaths. And that one of the problems is that they lack empathy. So therefore, then they become that single-minded on what it is they're doing, that nothing else counts and nothing else matters. And so it can happen, and I've seen it a lot. So, and it's challenging. And as a coach, it's our job to try and keep that fine balance between somebody doing really, really well, but then not losing other areas. So what that comes down to is, again, and where we go with this is exactly what you started with. A loop right back to what you started with. I get them to set a list of rules, a list of non-negotiables, but that doesn't just encompass work, or it doesn't just encompass training. A list of values, I suppose, is what you're looking for. So what I say is a list of values within your personal being, yourself, you. So let's talk about some values and non-negotiables for you, training, exercise, all those kind of things. Let's talk about them in your personal life, your relationships, for your friendships, your colleagues at work, how you want to be perceived as a leader, all that kind of stuff. And then, okay, let's go a little deeper. What about your working boundaries and your working values as well? And so the key to it with that personality type, because often they're the ones who tell people what to do. So you telling them what to do, it just becomes that, and you just sort of cracking heads. You hold up what they've committed to and say, okay, this is your work, not mine. These are your words. This is what you committed to. So let's put you in a self-reflective piece. how about you score yourself on how you're doing with what you said you're going to do?
Yeah.
And that then is powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I was just thinking as you were talking, because, it always depends on the relationship you have with the person as well. The closer, like for me, if it's an employee, it's a bit easier because I can see what's going on.
Yeah.
As a business mentor, it's a bit different because it really depends how deep into like you are helping them with their business. So are you seeing a drop off in productivity of the things like you said that they would normally have been doing to run and push their business forward? Are certain markers dropping off? Is revenue dropping? Are they as bang on their social media as usual? Are they getting things out on time? Are they doing all the things that they were doing that was having the business maybe going pretty well?
Ticking the boxes, but in
Or are
another
they
area,
now
yeah.
2-3 hours a day training and getting less and less of this done, or these things are now just not really getting done and they're not managing to hand it to someone else, or even worse, someone you're not really even working with at all that you can see is going down that path, but they're not likely to really tell you that there's a problem. They're like, no, I'm getting everything done, everything's fine. But it's like, who's the person that's going to say, no, it's not fine? And like you said, I keep relating everything to business and work, but like you said, are you spending the same amount of time with your kids as you used to? Are you seeing your missus as often? Are you doing the same things as you used to do there? Like, how many things are you pushing off to the side to go to the gym more often or go training more often? Speak with people that get into like high endurance type sports because it takes so long. Anyone who starts talking about wanting to do a marathon and
Ironmans, weekend warriors, all that
you're
kind
like,
of
you're
stuff.
going to lose a lot of life, chasing those sports, because the more you get into it, the more you have to do. And have you discussed with relevant people how much of this, how much time this is going to take away from, is your business and your job, is it supportive of this thing you want to do? Is your missus, your kids supportive? Because whereby you used to go and have a pub lunch on a Sunday and have some family time. Now you're out on a 6-hour bike ride. And when you come home, you've booked and you're no use to anybody and you're asleep for the rest of the day. A lot of stuff changes when that happens. And like you said, that psychopath thing comes in. When you get obsessed with something, you don't see all the other things. All you care about is, well, I got my 6-hour bike ride. And when people start calling you on it, you're like, well, I've got this Ironman to do. It's like, do you want me to fucking die doing it or not? Like, I've got to train. And trying to find balance around some of the extreme things is really difficult. But I like what you said about, and I think you've got to catch it early. And it's something I wish I'd done a little bit. I where I used to see this a lot is PTs doing a bodybuilding show. The minute prep starts getting hard and they're doing the 2 hours of cardio a day, and they're depleted and they're not eating, and all of a sudden you're like, you were doing like 30 sessions a week. Now you're doing about 15. You're barely in the gym. And when you are in the gym, you're yawning, you're tired, you're fucking sleeping all the time. You're going, yeah, but I'm on prep. I'm like, I don't give a flying fuck what you're on. Your clients that I gave you are paying you a lot of money to come first. And they don't give a shit that you're on prep either. Because the worst thing I used to fucking hear is like, them telling their clients how hard it is. Oh, 2 hours of cardio today. I'm only on fucking 1,000 calories. And the client's like, well, I'm only on 1,000 calories and I've got a fucking job to do.
Yeah, and I come here for a laugh. I don't give a shit, So.
Yeah, so I've watched trainers lose, in a whatever, let's say a 12-week fucking training camp for a show, during that time lose 5, 6, 7, 8 clients because the clients have got up to a point where trainer's tired all the time, or he's cancelling. A lot of that, I remember bumping into a good friend of mine actually, because the first time he did a big bodybuilding show, same thing, and he was a lethargic bodybuilder anyway. And I remember one day I was in Hong Kong and he worked for me and he was barely in the gym. I'm like, the fuck is he? I knew he was prepping. Clients were dropping off. He was barely in. And we trained at a different gym down the road. So one day I go off to the gym, fucking lift doors open, and he's coming out having just worked out. I'm like, you've not been in the gym for 2 days. Like, where the fuck have you been? He's like, well, and it was a lesson. We sat down at the end of that prep and I said, you fucking lost half your clients. So I hope that show was worth it, because if that was you on your own, you've just lost half your income,
half your business, yeah,
to do a bodybuilding show.
Yeah.
And because you work for me and we get you your business, you know it's going to get replaced. But then it was like, look, I'm going to replace this work for you as a one-off, get your business back up. But you go into another prep and you lose it again, you're done. Because I'm not going to give you business for you to lose because your competition is more important than your clients. And you don't know the stuff that people start to do behind the scenes because they're tired. You know, canceling meetings, canceling clients, canceling things because they're tired from all this training they're doing because they're obsessed over this thing. And, you know, it doesn't always get noticed straight away, but sooner or later your employer, or you know, or if it's your own business, you're going to start seeing your own business suffer.
Yeah, your customers.
And it's really hard to get it back once it's gone.
Your personal relationships, all that kind of stuff.
Which is where I like what you said, you're trying to hold yourself to, are you still getting these things done?
Yeah.
And what is a consequence of, great, you're going to go and do this competition, this thing, but what if this keeps trending this way?
Yeah.
Because once you've got your little medal and you wake up the next day and you can't pay the fucking bills, it's like, what was it for? I don't like to tell anybody not to chase things they want to achieve in life. There's way more to life than just trying to make money and run a successful business. But at the same time, you know, trying to find some sort of balance, unless you're a professional athlete where you're getting paid for this, because this is the thing as well. They live and try and train like a professional athlete, but I'm like, but that's not who's paying you. You've not got sponsors. No one's paying you to train. And I know from my own, I know when I'm doing too much. I relentlessly fucking overtrain. So I know when things are falling off the wayside because I'm tired, and that's why I try and plan it into my day the way I do, because I know if I don't, I'm fucked and I'm getting nothing done. So if I keep my training in the slots I want it, I can still train pretty hard and get most of my work done. But I know when things pile up. You know, I've got my fucking, this is my to-do list every fucking day. I piece of paper, old school. I know when there's not a ton of lines in that, I'm like, fuck, I've got to catch. And it's Thursday. I like my piece of paper. I like to have everything ticked off by fucking Friday. So I'm going to the weekend and reset for next week. If I'm at Thursday, Friday,
but equally, John, you could easily train for another hour each day, but you put that boundary in place to say, look, that's my slot. That's when I train.
Yeah. I've got better at my training sessions not being quite so crazy, apart from the last few. Mainly through just getting older. I'm more productive with my hour and a half in the gym. It really just depends. Some days I overexert and I can feel it, and I know, and it affects other things that I have to do. I think for me, my training tends to affect sometimes things outside of work. Business I'm not too bad with, but it does affect my relationships. It does affect having energy to go and do things that are maybe a compromise, maybe things I don't really want to go and do, like date night and all this shit that people put in to make sure the relationships fucking, stay good. And it's not just training. Like for me, you know what I'm like. I sit and watch sport for hours.
Yeah.
And since I moved to the US, it's got worse because, anyone who watches any American football knows each game's like 2-3 hours long. And I can sit on a Sunday and watch 2 or 3 games back to back, because that's how I relax. Yeah. So to me, that's me on the sofa. It's my day off. I'm going to eat and I'm going to just fucking veg out and watch this. Well, the missus doesn't really fucking enjoy that.
But let's go. Yeah, but let's go back to daily routines and morning routines. But that doesn't fit with the manifesting. Get up on a Sunday morning. Put your feet in the grass and going out and swim in a lake and I do like to do all those things. And go walking and all that kind of stuff.
More relaxing and productive for you. And he's probably good for me. Go out, get some fresh air. But at the same time, sometimes I like what I like. But I also, we have to kind of compromise. So, for me, I've got to remember, okay, maybe I'll just watch one game later. Let's get up. Let's go out, have some breakfast. Let's go and, take a little walk somewhere. Do things together, because they're the bits I forget. I get, I will get quite complacent and be like, oh, fuck it, I'm just going to chill out today.
Yeah. So
I forget that I actually live with someone. Yeah. That might want my attention.
Yeah, of course. Or maybe not. but there we go.
Oh, maybe not.
Mine tries to boot me out of the house sometimes, but there we go. So morning routines, day routines, they're great for you, but they have to work for you. But then what we're also saying is monitor your performance in all areas of your life and ensure that these routines are hopefully getting you towards, optimum performance in those areas, because they can help. But then if you're not careful, they can actually hinder all areas of your life as well.
Yeah, well, I think where you're hitting the nail on the head, which I hadn't thought about, although have been talking about a bit recently, but you've come at it from this angle, from the start of this conversation, is all areas of your life.
Yeah.
Not just ticking off what you think is the most important. And bizarrely enough, we tend to put relationships last and friendships last. It's like, if I'm going to focus on training and, that being a serious part of my life, and business then comes second, and then all this other stuff comes third or fourth, it's like, well, great, but what how happy are you going to be if you wake up, and one morning you're fucking divorced because you managed to keep these two things ticking over well with all your energy.
Yeah, you've got great abs, but nobody to feel them. You've got a bodybuilding medal, but no business. Can't pay your bills.
Speaking to you because you don't spend time with them. And that stuff doesn't always come out at the time either. Kids will tend to tell their parents they were never there for them once they're an adult.
Yeah, later.
So it's not always seen at the time. All of a sudden your kid gets into their 20s and like, well, you were never there when I was a kid. You were always doing this, this, and this.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought I was there. Like, no, being around isn't being there.
Yeah.
So I do like that. And I think, as a business coach, it's something that people should, whatever they use as their metrics and whatever they use as their questionnaires, going into their whole lifestyle, and not just, okay, I'm here to make sure you're productive with your business.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I really care about.
Yeah.
Because you do get a bit like that. You get on these calls with everybody, and it's like, what are your numbers? What have you done this week? What have you done? And then it's like, yeah, but is there maybe any of the deeper reasons why maybe you've not got some of that done? And how can we take a look at that? Because it's not just about telling someone what to do. It's about what's getting in the way. We all know, emotional fucking relationship issues, things like that. They sidetrack us. We can't concentrate. Mm-hmm. We're not as productive. But what's causing that, and if we're causing it with our actions of, putting ourselves first, training, doing all these things that we're told, morning routine could be one of those.
Yeah.
You start following these gurus and go, fuck it, I've got to do these 5 things every morning. And that used to be a bit of time you spend, even if it was just 10 minutes with the missus in the morning, 15 minutes of
having a chat, having a coffee together. Yeah.
And you're now, can't do any of that. I'm out fucking meditating in the back garden.
Yeah.
You're missing something else that maybe you're not paying attention to, that's going to cause you an even bigger problem than being like, well, I need to be more productive. For me, there's a lot of making sure. I do believe a lot in the whole getting you right, the self-love. You can't love anybody else if you're not in the good place. But sometimes by reading what everyone else tells you to do and you think this is going to get you in a good place, you're actually making shit worse.
Yeah.
Because you're now becoming selfish.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, yeah, but what about the other people in your life? Friends, family, kids, all these other things that need attention. They don't give a fuck if that 10 minutes of meditating helps you.
Oh, John,
they're sat at the table.
You've gone there, mate, again.
Breakfast.
Let's see if you come back. John?
Yep.
Sorry, you dropped out there again.
Yeah, no, I was just saying, I think those people, like say, your kid doesn't give a fuck if your 10 minutes of meditating was good for you if they're sat at the fucking breakfast table waiting for their breakfast.
Yeah.
Or they can't find their shoes and they're going to be late for school, right? So
wanting to tell you about wanting to tell you about what's going on at school and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, all right, cool. So I think that whether that surprises a few people listening who know us, who knows, whatever, but certainly to new listeners and new followers, our aim, as always, is to be honest, is to be real, is to debunk some myths that are out there. Yeah. Jon's face is frozen on my screen again. Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
He's back.
I don't think it's my
back.
internet. I'll see.
Yeah.
I'll run this all back. We'll make it work.
It's
I think
good.
it's
Leave it in, mate. I've just been talking about being real, and that we'll always be honest and be real, and debunk myths that are out there, because the people we want to work with and help often feel that they're not good enough if they're not doing those 5 things a day, da-di-da-di-da. Whereas what we're saying is you can be successful in your career, with your body, in your life, your personal life. It's about having balance and about, focusing on what really matters sometimes as well, and doing what works for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Yeah. So that's us for today. As always, guys, thanks for listening. Jon's going to be back in sunny LA next for our next episode, back on his Wi-Fi. So some slight glitches in there today, but it's all good. It's part of it. I think the key messages were there. But as always, from Jon, from me, thanks for listening. And Jon, we'll talk to him again soon, won't we?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Take care.